Gets open for three. Dagger!
The kick, and here it comes. Swing and a miss! And a World Series Game 7 winning Curly W is in the books.
Washington Capitals are the 2018 Stanley Cup champions. You like that? You like that? I like that.
You gotta like that, right?
My approval ratings keep going up.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
Welcome in to Defeating the Curse. My name is Joe. I will be joined shortly by Razzle and by a special guest, Manny Benton, who used to cover the Washington football team up close and personal. He was a beat reporter for a long, long time, so it would be exciting to get him on the show as well and get his thoughts. Unfortunately, Washington travels to Philadelphia. They started with a lead, Razzle. They came out hot. I mean, Landon Collins doing Landon Collins things and making us believe, picking off a ball off of some guy's cleat and then picking up a fumble recovery. They started off really, really hot, and unfortunately, reality set in. And this is what happens when you lose half your roster basically to COVID, and the backup is your starting quarterback. This is what happens, but they made us believe, for a quarter and a half or 2 quarters or whatever it was, halftime going in tied. I mean, what did you think? What was your initial reaction when the game starts the way it did? Because for me, I was pumped. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I knew this game was going to be close. These midweek games and these COVID rescheduled games tend to be a little bit low scoring on the closer end of it. And then, when we got out to that early 10-0 lead, I was like, all right, we can maybe make a game of this. But, as we saw with the limited game plan that they put together for Garrett, and just the way that the Eagles were able to control the ball and control the time of possession, and the way they were just getting first downs and running the ball all over us, it became clear that our defense was just going to get tired throughout the night,
and that's exactly
not
what
be able
happened.
To keep up.
Yeah, I mean, even if you knew that you were going to get Gilbert's line, basically before the game, you probably would have taken it. But what I don't think anyone expected was the fast start. I mean, I just didn't expect it. I didn't expect to see it, and the team looked like they were ready and to play regardless of the circumstances. And frankly, again, it's a little bit of fool's gold, because this isn't the guy who's going to go out and win you games, but he looked like he could do it. That deep pass to Terry to kind of get things rolling early on. I mean, it looked promising. And I want to bring Manny in here because Manny, he was in the green room. We were talking just before we went on. And for those that want to call in, the phone number is 855-908-5668. We're live on The Contender. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, everywhere else. So feel free to send in your comments. I want to bring Manny in on this because we were talking about this. Jonathan Allen gave a pretty targeted speech, to kind of get the guys going. And Manny, welcome to the show, but just kind of give me your thoughts. I mean, what did you hear from Allen, and do you think the team actually responded to him coming out of the jump, to start the game?
Listen to John Allen's pre-game speech that he gave to the team, and I feel like that gave them some juice early in the game. But as the game kind of settled, you could see that, at some point you can only go so deep in your depth chart where you start, until you start seeing like some deficiencies. And I think we saw some deficiencies tonight.
Well, I think we've been seeing deficiencies all season, to be fair, right? And
yeah.
There's a thing. My biggest pet peeve with the offense has been consistently, and I'm not going to kill Scott Turner because I mean, especially in this game situation, I mean, you can only do so much with a guy who was basically, at home on Thursday, joined the team on Friday, taking reps on Sunday. Everything is via Zoom. Everything is remote. No real game reps. No time to really build rapport. And Mark Sanchez touched on it on the TV broadcast as well. I mean, he wants to trust the routes and what he knows is going to happen, but he wants to see the guys get open before he's going to sling the ball. And you're not going to be successful. I mean, it worked a little bit in the early frame. The weather got bad, and then the wheels kind of came off. But I'll tell you, there's just something that drives me bananas when it's 3rd and X yards and the team is running plays that are 3 yards short of that, right? And then when the pressure's on and they go into hurry up, I mean, maybe it's just something I don't understand, Manny, but like, why isn't the play calling consistent from the beginning that way, right? Not necessarily hurry up, but just keep things moving. Like, why do we only see, Adam Humphries basically on third downs? Like, why isn't he out there running those 6 and 7 yard routes consistently on second down? Maybe I don't know. Like, there's just something about the play calling that seems kind of start and stop to me. Again, I know you were around the team through several coaches ago, but I mean, you're there every day, or you were there every day. What is it about that situational football that changes in the last, I don't know, the last frame of the game, or when it's desperation time and you need multiple points? What actually happens at that point where things just move a little bit faster and guys tend to get open?
Yeah, well, I know it's several things, especially when you're behind, the defense could kind of start playing a little lax. But then also you see in hurry up where across the league in general, when you're in hurry up, unless you're doing it all the time, you see quarterbacks become a little more comfortable in playing in hurry up, just because it's like you have a condensed playbook that you're playing from, and you kind of have to make quick choices and stuff, and you have the defense off guard. So it kind of helps the quarterback a little bit. But when you're doing it all the time, at the same time, and the defense is eventually going to catch up. But it's the big conundrum with Scott Turner, right? Like, I think a lot of people are still kind of on the fence with him, with play calling, whether they like him or not. And I'm still kind of on the fence. I've kind of, in recent months, I think, leaned a little closer to liking him.
Yeah.
And then I think there's this other component to it too, where it's like, man, this guy has not had he's had Heineke this year, but he hasn't had his quarterback. He's had so many injuries on the offensive line, and these may be excuses to some, but like, again, like, you can't go but so far down your depth chart without having to give a little bit of consideration to what the coaches are dealing with, and I think he's dealing with a lot. But yeah, I agree. I think you saw early in the game where they had this little bit of a rhythm. Sometimes they script those earlier plays and stuff, and then the defense kind of catches up, and then it's on the onus of the coaches to kind of,
But at some point you also gotta look at what's happening on the field, right? Like Gibson, Antonio touched the ball. I think I'm looking at the box score. I'm pulling up. He had 15 carries for 26 yards. Like, at some point you got to say, all right, this ain't gonna work. Like, this is right. You can't afford to keep gaining a yard and a half at a time. And to me, he looked injured. And Razzle, we saw this happen a couple times now throughout the season, where it was the shin or the toe or something. And Jared Patterson comes in, and I mean, he looks like he can carry the ball a couple times, but obviously towards the end of the game they needed to get yards. But did he look injured to you, Razzle? Because he didn't look 100% to me.
He didn't look 100%, but they were crowding the box. They knew we were going to have to feed Antonio Gibson in order to, pull out some sort of victory. We were, like Manny said, we were playing with a limited playbook. They scripted probably the beginning of the game. They knew what they were going to come out with, but there are only so many, plays that they can prepare Garrett with, but we never got to a point in the game where we felt like we needed to abandon the run. We were in this close up until the last drive when they went down the field and they scored that last touchdown. We were in this game. So I'm okay with the game plan of continuing to get
Razzle, I disagree with you. I don't think they were in this game. Even at 10-0 and 10-3 and 10-10. We
were always – it was a single – we had the lead, or it was a single position game the whole game until the last drive. And then, we had to, try to patch something together to try to put points on that last drive before we got sacked on the fourth down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with
my point is, you can't abandon the run.
Yeah, there was always going to be a chance, right? And the way the game started was so favorable. I mean, it was. I personally, guys, I've never seen an interception like that before. I've never seen a ball bounce off of someone's heel. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And it just looked like a dead play.
The way they even played it with the ref, like, nobody realized that the pick happened until
except Landon. And
then he's yelling at his coach. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Landon. I don't think he finished the game on the field. I think at some point he was injured in the late in the third quarter. I don't think he finished the game. But let's talk about Garrett here just a little bit. I mean, he ends the game at going 20 for 31, 194 yards. A lot of those came. Well, I don't know. A chunk of those came in the first quarter. He had one beautiful pass to Terry, it may have been the best ball thrown at Terry all season where, he really got to show off some of that speed. He had to slow down again. I mean, this is it's going to be the story of his career. He's going to outrun every quarterback's arm with the exception of a very few. But that was a good looking throw. I mean, he hit him not in stride, but they moved the ball. It looked like, okay, maybe these go routes were going to be there. But outside of that play, we really didn't see anything else from Terry the rest of the way. He was targeted a couple times, but again, like Garrett specifically here, if going into the game, if Scott or Ron or random fan or anybody, if you told him he was going to go 20 for 31 for 194, no picks and no touchdowns, I think we probably would have taken that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's probably the best you could have gotten out of it. It's very Taylor, Heineke in that regard, right? Like just a guy off the street who comes in, runs your offense. I think we would have taken it. I mean, I would have taken it. It's just,
he protected the ball. There were no turnovers other than, I think, on the last drive where he was just trying to get the ball out of there on the fourth down. But he protected the ball. He executed the game plan. We put 17 points on the board. And if our defense could come up with a couple more stops, I think we would have been able to have this game. I'm considering what we were expecting from Garrett, I would definitely say that like this was a win in terms of the performance that we would have gotten from him.
Yeah, and I think we did overall play a game. Considering the circumstances between COVID, between no practice essentially, and then a random Tuesday game and the weather. I mean, the weather was one I wasn't tracking, Joe, personally, but it ended up being a factor as well. But I don't know if that's an excuse. I mean, Manny, you're shaking your head. It's not an excuse. I mean, everybody's got to, you make your adjustments and you figure it out. But I don't know what Washington could have done better, and that's kind of where that was my thought during the entire game, and just I didn't see they didn't run the ball very effectively. I mean, that's for clear. Yes, they could have run the ball better, but there wasn't one area where they really struggled. I mean, the defense definitely got worn down, and Philly did what Philly's been doing. I mean, they can run. I mean, that's a really interesting team now as every game is a playoff game moving forward. If Philly executes this type of game plan, I mean, they're not good enough to win the Super Bowl, but they're good enough to get into the playoffs and probably to upset somebody's chances. I mean, because the defense, given the Washington football team really didn't have much to do, but they swarm the ball. They try to rip and punch at the ball, but offensively, they can run the ball really effectively. And Washington, it was nice to see Montez out there, and they were getting some early pressure. But, man, as the game wore on, they were averaging – I felt like they were averaging a first down every time they carried the ball. I mean, and again, some of the chats that are coming in, everybody's saying the same thing. The Eagles were averaging about 7.5 yards per carry in that final frame. I mean, you're not going to win any games if you're getting up that kind of chunk yardage, right? So, I don't know, Manny, did you see something they could have done better? I mean, if you were game planning – for the Eagles, given the way that the football team was constructed today, I mean, what else could they have done to be competitive in this game today?
Yeah, I think everybody figured that this game was going to be won by either stopping the Eagles in the run game or having your run game have success, itself. And you mentioned Gibson injury, and I think that his injury definitely was probably bugging him a little bit, but also, I just didn't see many holes. I didn't see many holes on the offensive line. I didn't see much there. Like, I think Razzle mentioned it as well. Like, the Eagles were crowding the box. Like, there just wasn't much there. And so I would have liked to see Scott Turner try to dial up more screens and try to get the ball in different ways to Gibson instead of just giving him, run carries. On defense, I listened to one of my favorite guys. I listened to Kevin Sheehan. Mentions it like every single week. He's like, man, if the other team just decided to actually run the football, they probably would have success against Washington. And it's like every week you just see these teams that, some of them have had success, but some of them haven't really stuck on the ground because they've had success in the air. But this is the first time I think where a team has really, dominated Washington on the ground. And it's because they stuck with it. And we saw the deficiencies and the holes that we have at linebacker and the injuries on the defensive line because they
And there's
just
a lot of holes at linebacker.
it's I don't think it's anybody
Listen,
playing
I don't want to
linebacker.
kill Jamin Davis because he's a rookie, but man,
Yeah.
like for every one spectacular play, or even for every one play where his name gets called, and you want to do the golf clap. All right, good effort, young man, whatever. There's so many plays where he's just completely out of position, where he's chasing from behind. He doesn't have that closeout speed. I mean, these are things that you would think Washington knew when they drafted him. Like you can coach a player to understand your scheme. You can't make him faster. And this is just one of those things that maybe I don't know, maybe I'm the crazy one, but like he is what he is. Like he's not going to be faster. He's not going to be taller. You're not going to teach him to anticipate, a snap count he'll learn to anticipate. And we saw the Eagles, I mean, probably with the best, I'm blanking on the name, but that edge rusher that came off on like a perfectly timed, blitz on the snap. Like, yeah, over time and years and reps and they're probably, I don't know, like Garrett's probably running like the simplest like on 3 snap count. So I'm sure that factored in as well. But Jamin Davis in particular, I mean, for me, switching to the defensive side, like every time I see his number like flash on the screen, he's usually chasing, and it's very rarely, a play that makes me feel like we got value, that he's a first round caliber talent. I mean, maybe I'm just not seeing it, but he seems like he's always out of position. I don't know if you guys agree with me.
That's something that can be coached, though. I think that's something that over time that he can improve on and learn the scheme and learning where to be at the right place at the right time. I'm not ready to give up on the kid. He's still a rookie. I know he hasn't had the greatest year. We're probably comparing him to the other guys that we see who got drafted a couple spots ahead of him that we'll see next week in Micah Parsons. But like, I'm not ready to give up on Jamin Davis. I think he has, the physique and the skills and the talent to be successful in this league and here in Washington.
But is he playing like a first round pick, Joe? I mean, is he
not.
Is he that much
I'm
better?
Not ready to write him off like you are.
I mean,
it sounds like you're ready to just cut him loose and let him go find somewhere else to play. I think he has what he needs. It's more coaching and more development, in this.
I mean, I'm not a Cole Holcomb guy either, but I would take Cole 10 times out of 10 over Jamin right now.
Yeah,
and that's just because he understands the scheme. I mean,
he's been in the system. He's been in the league for a much longer period of time.
Yeah,
all right. That's fair.
I wasn't high on Jamin coming out, but at the same time, kind of lean to the thought of, hey, we have 2 former linebackers who are coaches on the team, picking this guy out. Like, you expect them to know what they're doing there, and so I still trust that component to it. But I do get what you're saying, Joe, because like typically when you have a player who has height, weight, speed, and has those raw ability that you expect them to display on the field, like normally, even when that guy is super, super raw, is just like doesn't really get it fully mentally yet, you still see him flashing at least a little bit of his gifts on the field, and I just haven't seen it yet. Like, there's been maybe 2 plays that I can remember where Jamin, you saw a little bit of his closing speed, but at the same time, it just hasn't been like that dominant. That one play where it's like, okay, his height, weight, speed is legit, like, and so that's my biggest concern because, it's like if he hasn't shown that yet, like, does he actually have that? I remember listening to his linebacker coach get interviewed back when he got drafted, and he mentioned that he was super surprised that Jamin ran where he ran in the 40. It's things like that where it's like, okay, is he really that fast? And then the mere fact that they have him playing middle linebacker, that's also, an area where, I don't think they should have started him off there. I think he should have been an outside linebacker. Maybe would have seen a little bit more, but I'm not giving up on him, but I agree. Like, I would expect to see a little bit more just from a raw, standpoint, because everybody was touting his height, weight, speed.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And so, keeping it on the linebackers for a second, I mean, Montez Sweat looked, I mean, it was nice to see him back out there. I mean, Montez played an all-around, a good game for somebody who's been missing from the team, hasn't been practicing with the team or been around the team for 5-6 weeks. He did have that forced fumble on Jalen Hurst, and that Landon Collins ultimately picked up. I mean, Landon Collins had he had a career quarter. That first quarter was great for LC, right? Between the interception and the fumble recovery, he was playing great, but it was good to see Montez out there, and I mean, Landon played okay. Jonathan Allen continues to be, I think, the unsung hero. I mean, he is the leader of this defense, bar none.
Yep.
My guy Matt Anitis, Matt had a good game too. I mean, he came in and did what he needed to do, but the defense as a unit, as the game progressed, man, you could just tell, like they were tired. The holes were wide. I mean, it wasn't pretty, man. It was a show.
If you look at the time of possession, Joe, just I had it up just a second ago. Look at the time of possession, and the Eagles had the ball for 35 minutes of the game, and even leading into the fourth quarter, it was the ratio between football team and the Eagles having the ball was substantially in the Eagles' favor. So I mean, they were exhausted. It was a weird week. It was Tuesday night. It was raining. Obviously, being in Philly sucks. Nobody wants to play. Or
Philly does suck. That's people got to. I mean, listen. Yes, we're homers and we're fans of the football team. Yes, okay, no problem. I'll speak for myself. Philly's the worst. Okay,
yeah.
It's literally the worst. The classless people. The food is shit. The people are annoying. Like they boo Santa. I really, really don't like Philly. Dallas is annoying because it's all a bunch of Dallas fans everywhere that have never been to Dallas and whatever. Okay, but Philly, they're rude and they're and they're sitting there thinking, oh, our team's got a chance to win the Super Bowl. No, your team beat up on a team that they should have beat up on tonight. Like they're not going to go into Lambeau and upset Aaron Rodgers. Okay, they're not even going to. Just something about Philly drives me insane, and that's why, like, that trip to Philly, we did it once upon a time. I'll never do it again, but even leading up to the game, I mean, the constant whining and crying about how the football team is being given an unfair advantage and given extra days and whatever. I mean, best case, they would have seen Taylor Heineke, and worst case was tonight, right? Or best case for them, they would see, the backup. I mean, literally, like, what are you complaining about? It's just how they are, man. Like, it's an annoying city. But you're right on the time of possession thing. I mean, at one point it was 3-1, and by the end of the game, official time of possession, Eagles 35, Washington football team 24. But you're right. I think going into the fourth quarter, it was like 32-12 or something. It was extremely lopsided, but everything was lopsided, Joe. I mean, look at the total yards. I mean, the Eagles ended up going over 5.
Yeah.
They doubled them up. They doubled them up. I mean, 237 for the football team. Yeah, 519 for.
Very balanced too. I mean, it was 281 to 238 passing to rushing. I mean,
the rushing is just embarrassing. 238 to 63 is. I mean, you're never going to win a game like that. Yards per play. Again, Eagles were averaging 7.4 yards per play. They're averaging a first down every 1.2 plays. Like, that's not going to win many games.
Do you take back what you said about Jalen Hurts the other day?
No, I think no. He won't be the starter in Philadelphia next season. No, man. I don't see it. He's got them. He doesn't protect the ball.
They're driving. They have. I think right now the Vikings have that last playoff spot in the NFC.
Yes,
but he's got them in contention. I think they got the Giants next week, and then we play them again, and then they wrap up with the Cowboys. I think that's how the way their season ends. Or am I?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Manny.
I hope that Hurts stays there, because if it's not him, it's probably going to be Deshaun Watson. I don't want Deshaun Watson in Philly.
The Eagles were, playing it. There's a lot of talk around him, but then they kind of died down. I feel like, it could be, or they may, go with Gardner. I mean, Gardner looked good last week. I'm surprised they didn't give him another shot. I know Jalen had a couple extra days to get healthy in order to play tonight.
Well, Manny, you're a Deshaun guy. I think you were open to Deshaun coming to DC as well.
Oh, 100%. I mean, still, next offseason, I would be campaigning for that. As long as, the expectation from what I've been following Josina Anderson. I think she's been doing a great job on that topic. And, it sounds like he's probably going to come away kind of clean from that. And so if he does, I'm all in. But Philly has a lot of picks, a lot of ammo to throw out there for Watson, and I think they would if they want to move on from Hurts. So you'll have some competition there. But I would be all in.
Am I crazy, Manny? I mean, do you see something in Jalen Hurts that I don't see? Because to me, he looks very average. I mean, he's 15 or worse. Like he's not a top 15 quarterback in the league. No way.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's got him in a good play. He's got him in a place where they're fighting for a playoff spot because of his play, not in spite of his play.
What would you guys think of him compared to Lamar?
Lamar's the MVP of the league. Lamar does everything Jalen does so much better. I mean, he's more accurate on the deep throw.
Quarterback
he's got more speed
in the league. He's the most overrated quarterback in the league. He'll have one game where everyone on ESPN just starts slurping over his play. Then he'll have 3 to 4 weeks where he's just, not running backwards or can't even hit anyone in it with an accurate pass. I'm not saying Jalen and Lamar in the same conversation. I would obviously take Lamar over Jalen, but either way, Lamar is pretty overrated, and you can see based on the way the Ravens are probably going to miss the playoffs, this year.
Yeah, but Lamar is also playing with, it's fair to say, with less talent. I mean, he has less talented receivers.
Who would the Eagles have? Devontae Smith, okay, rookie, but other than that, I mean, Jalen Hurts.
Devonta Smith is a baller, man. I mean, that kid can play.
I'm saying, if you look at Jalen Hurts, a majority of his incompletions were drops. The tight end Goddard dropped a couple.
Goddard dropped a zillion. Yes.
Right. And a couple other guys. I saw a couple other drops out there. His passes were on there.
I know somewhere out there, our buddy Pete's going to hate to hear this, our buddy from Philly, but Philly's quietly assembled a pretty balanced roster. There's no all-stars or Pro Bowlers very, very few like true standouts, but Jordan Howard is a very capable running back. As a change of pace back, right? Miles Sanders. I mean, that stat that they flashed on the screen, how can you have that many yards and no touchdowns? How is that possible?
Kill someone's fantasy team. Don't hope.
Yeah, well, somewhere he's killing everybody's fantasy team. But the tight ends, the way that they run this offense, I mean, they may be slightly better than their record. Again, I'm not a Jalen guy, but what are you going to say? I mean, they had the Washington football team's number today, 27-17. I mean, it really wasn't that close, even though Washington jumped out to that 10-0. Like, I'm sitting on my couch, Joe, I'm watching the game, and I'm thinking, there's no way that they can protect this lead. It's not possible. It's not possible. Philly eventually is going to figure this out. They're gonna start just packing the box. They're gonna get after the quarterback, and that's exactly what happened. But I will tell you, I wrote down this thought somewhere during the third quarter. At what point do we have to question what roughing the passer is? Because if it's so inconsistently called, the way Garrett was getting hit today. I mean, we saw Chase get flagged against Matt Ryan for literally just tapping him. And today we see Garrett basically, I mean, did you see his jersey at the end of the game? It was all different colors, right? I mean, he spent all day in the mud. He was constantly getting pushed after the throw, shoved after the throw, taken to the ground, body weight of defender falling on him. No flags. No flags. I mean, and I know the league's going to protect its stars, but that penalty in particular, the defensive pass interference is a terrible, like they got to figure that one out too. But the roughing the passer is so inconsistently called, and I don't know if it would have changed the outcome of the game. It probably wouldn't have, but like to me, it's just something as a fan watching from home, it's so inconsistently called. They have to figure it out.
The call that pissed me off a little bit more was the blindside block by the guard that replaced Sheriff.
On the
DeAndre Carter end around. That was a pretty bad call because it was a clean block. He came in at a clean angle, and I mean there was no contention there. I didn't see Ron up in arms about that one, but that one pissed me off a little bit more because we had a big play, came back because of something that probably 10 years ago would have never been called.
Yeah, that's true. For anyone that's listening out there, I see we got quite a few people watching the show. Thank you for hanging out with us. The phone number is 855-908-5668. The phone lines are open. If you want to chime in, go right ahead. I see there's a lot of comments coming in. I'm not going to flash them all on the screen because there's quite a few that are you can tell some football team fans had a lot to drink. So I'm not going to flash those on the screen, but the general thing I'm seeing here is, there's some disdain for Scott Turner, and I think we talked about that a little bit. There's some questioning about, would this game, this is an interesting question, guys. I mean, would the game have been different had Taylor been able to go, or had Kyle been able to go? And I think the answer with Kyle is probably not. I think there's a reason why he's the backup to the backup, but you got to think with Taylor out there, you probably have your full offensive package ready to go, regardless of who's out there to catch the ball, even with the bad weather. If you get a 10-0 start, or a 10-0 start, and Taylor's under center, maybe they fare a little bit better. I mean, you can see the drop off, right? And this is I think what all of us need to try to understand, right? Like the drop off between quarterback play as you go down the tiers of quarterbacks, just on your own roster, forget about league wide. The fall off theoretically from Fitzpatrick to Taylor, I think was maybe pretty substantial. But now you go from Taylor past Kyle Allen, past Shermer, all the way down to, to Garrett. Like you're running, I don't know, 20% of your plays. I mean, I don't know how much creativity there could possibly have been in tonight's offensive set, but I don't know, Manny. You're not the biggest Taylor guy. I'm trying to be polite. I mean, I don't think you're a Taylor guy at all. But I mean, do you think the team would have fared a little bit better with him today under center?
Yeah, I mean, and so I'm not a Taylor hater. Like, there's things I like about Taylor. It's just I'm not a guy that thinks that Taylor is the starter of the future. But
I think we'd all agree with you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would have been comfortable with either Allen or Taylor in today. And I think that Allen would have possibly won this game, either him or Heineke. I think either one of those guys being in, I think Washington may have a chance to win. Like that throw to Terry, that was the biggest play of the game. That should have been a touchdown. I think if Allen was in the game, that probably would have been a touchdown. Heineke, I don't know. I think Allen has a little bit of a little stronger arm.
Oh, come on. With Taylor, we know that ball's not getting there.
Yeah.
it is not getting there.
But I think if Allen were to have played, I don't think you would have seen a drop off in the play calling. I think the coaching staff is very confident in what Kyle Allen can do. I think you'd see the same game plan going into the game as you would have if you had Taylor at quarterback.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I mean, I agree. I agree with that too. Yeah. I mean, what about RG3? I mean, he wanted to come play quarterback this week. That guy.
Could you
Manny, call your boy, Manny. And I know you and him. I know you got his number. You give him a call and tell him to get out of his own way, man. This guy. I don't know what that guy's doing.
I was around him quite a bit, man. I mean, you know what? Washington should sign him. They should
there you go, Manny. There you go.
They should make him a backup, and they should put Survivor on the back of his jersey.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Let me play this out. Do you think? I mean, you brought him up, Joe. So I'm not gonna.
It was a joke, Razzle. No, I don't want that guy. I don't want that guy anywhere. When he was in Baltimore, he was too close. We would have had a better
chance to win tonight if he was our quarterback.
No,
man. We would have had a better chance. I think we would have been able to have a little creativity in the offense. I think we would have been able to do a little bit more.
You're playing Madden, dude. Like, no. RG3 is not coming in here. No way. No.
Do you know how good the ratings of the game would be? Do you know how many Washington fans would have been there? Would have made the trip to Philly if they knew RG3 was the quarterback? I mean, what do you
I think you're over romanticizing the RG3. Like
maybe
2012. Listen, 2012 was amazing. Right? 2012 was amazing. 2013 was not. And 2014 and 15, no way. Right? I mean, all the love.
I think
Joe, he's trying to write a book. He's writing a book like in his spare time about like, hey, guy, I'm gonna tell you all the truth about how terrible Ashburn is. Oh, by the way, Ashburn, if you need a quarterback, give me a call. I'm ready to go. No one
I'm
else
just
is
saying
that
for the
irony.
storylines. I'm on it so I can watch it the next day unfold on all this, sports talk radio shows and talk about it. That's the only thing I'm rooting for here.
No, I mean, he just, man, the RG, every time it comes up, I want Kirk, okay? If we're going to go into the time machine, give me Kirk back.
Your boy Kirk got 2 straight primetime victories the last 2 weeks. You should be.
I mean,
your boy
look,
Kirk's
Kirk,
on the way to the playoffs because we lost.
Manny, you
tonight.
were around Kirk a whole bunch too. If you could have one of those two guys, I mean, look, you literally covered the team when they were both there battling it out or pretend battling it out. Obviously, it was going to be RG3's. He was going to be the guy no matter what. But I mean, how much differently could this team? What position would this team be in right now if Bruce Allen hadn't effed around and just signed Kirk to a 6-year deal instead of the back-to-back franchise? He would still be here. He would still be here at 18
He'd
or 19.
still be here, and we'd be exactly where we are today.
No way, Joe. No way.
I actually agree with that sentiment. Like, I do think that this team may be a perennial playoff team with Kirk, but I don't think you go too far with Kirk.
Right.
And that's the only thing. He's not a championship quarterback. I think he would keep this team in contention every year, but he's not a championship quarterback.
I mean,
and I would take him over Robert, to be clear, though.
Yeah. Dude, I'm just joking around with the Robert thing.
Oh yeah, now you're just joking around.
No, I'm saying you give me those 2
you're
options
ready to go
today.
pick him
Yeah,
up
I'm
from his
taking
house.
Kirk, but I'm saying paying Kirk the type of money he's getting paid right now, he's not worth it. Like, I'm good with him being in Minnesota.
Yeah, look, I listen.
And
Kirk isn't worth.
I
wouldn't
have
listen.
the same record.
If I'm in charge of the football team back then, he's worth Tannehill money, which is what he should have gotten, 18, 19, 20, escalating to now he would be at 22, and you'd be in a position where this would be year 6. You're not going to probably extend him, or if you do, you're going to try to get him at value. But I mean, what Minnesota extended him at, which I think is like 34. Like,
did they end up extending him? I know he had an initial 3-year deal.
He's
okay.
extended. He's under contract for the rest of this season and next season, and then he has a player option after that. So he's
probably going to get a new coach next year if they don't end up making the playoffs. So he's going to have to start.
But
there.
you're sleeping on the Vikings. I think they're better than their record, and I think if Dalvin Cook is healthy, I mean they got they got people to run the ball. They got people to catch the ball. They got people to throw the ball. And that defense doesn't have to do much if it can get out in front. I mean, they've squandered quite a few leads, and they lost a whole bunch of games in the early part of the season, at the gun, basically. So I think the Vikings are better than their record. I think they can go to Dallas and win a game. I think they can certainly go, maybe not Lambeau, but I mean, they could go down to Tampa and upset Brady and the Bucks. I mean, Brady's missing all kinds of pieces now.
I mean, I'll give you maybe they'll be able to beat Dallas in the playoffs. Other than that, I think the NFC is way too stacked. I mean, the way the Niners are playing, the way the Rams they won tonight. I know it wasn't a pretty win, but it was still a win. And then also with the Cardinals, we have to see what comes out the last couple of weeks if they can shake off this, this late season, these late season struggles that they've been having.
At this point, I mean, it's. I guess with the end of the Eagles game, it officially becomes Dallas week yet again.
Yep. Sunday night football, baby.
I mean, it's interesting, right? We got Wednesday night, Thursday night.
We get a break tomorrow, and then we come back on Thursday. Yeah,
it's nice. It's nice. We have games on Thursday, 2 games on Saturday, 12 on Sunday, and then there's a lot of football over the Christmas or the holiday weekend, but it is officially now Dallas week. I mean, the football team sitting here at 6-8, I mean, they would have to, at this point, they need help, right? And I don't want to go too deep into the playoff talk, but in reality, they still have a path forward because they got some tiebreakers. But I mean, it's a long shot. I think you want to get one against Dallas just to say you got one against Dallas. I mean, that game, especially in Dallas, it means something to go down to Dallas and get a game. But I don't know how they can do it if the roster for Sunday is constructed the way the roster was constructed tonight. I don't know, Manny. What do you think? I mean, I mean, it would be nice for them to get one against Dallas and then hopefully end with a win and finish the season, at 500 or close to it. But this roster that took the field tonight cannot go to Dallas and win. I mean, that's my sentiment.
Well, first of all, they're taking their heated benches down to Dallas, so that's a plus. At least they'll be able to sit well. But that, I mean, personally,
Didn't
like
Dallas do that first when they came
did, yeah.
last 2 weeks last
Yeah.
week?
Dallas was the first team in the history of the league to travel with their own benches.
Yeah.
And they brought them to FedEx. Now, there's more to the story. It wasn't just that's the punchline, but the real story is the Seahawks had let them know, or let the league know, that the heated benches in Washington weren't working when Seattle was here the previous week on Monday night. So Jerry, because he's Jerry and it's the Cowboys, calls up the manufacturer of the bench company and says, send me Cowboys benches to Washington, which is exactly what happened. So, the first time in the history of the league. So,
Pretty crazy.
yeah, I mean, of course. But you know what? We can't pretend like that their fans didn't take over FedEx. I mean, it was 70-30 Cowboys fans in FedEx. I mean, what an embarrassing thing. But honestly, the stadium is terrible. So that's another story. Man, you were going to say something about Sunday's game against the Cowboys.
Yeah. You know, I think that Washington could have definitely beat the Cowboys last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago now. Their offense, Dallas offense, has not been right, but their defense has been playing lights out. So this upcoming game, you expect to have Tony Pollard in this game probably. Ezekiel seems to be playing a little bit, healthier now. That would be a concern, especially after Philly ran all over this defense. Can they stop the run? That's going to be key. It'll be important to see who they get back at quarterback, if it's Heineke or if it's Allen. I don't know, man. I think that Dallas is definitely the cream of the crop in this division. I don't know if Washington will be able to beat them this upcoming week. I don't expect Washington to make the playoffs at this point, but it'll be nice for them to get something.
So hold on, Manny. While you guys were talking, I was playing on the ESPN playoff machine, and I put together a likely scenario. I didn't fully, flesh it out here.
Here we go.
But we can go 2-1 over the next 3 games, beating the Giants.
Okay.
So like,
give me the
losing
2
to
wins.
the Cowboys.
Give me the 2 wins, Razzle. Who are they going to beat?
We had to beat the Eagles and then the Giants. We would lose to the Cowboys next week, but then expecting the Rams to beat the Vikings next week and the Eagles to beat the Giants. And then in week 17, we beat the Eagles. The Packers beat the Vikings, okay? And then week 18, Vikings beat the Bears. We beat the Giants. Cowboys beat the Eagles. We're in.
That's called we need help.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of it.
It's not. But
there's a chance.
That last spot between
There's
us.
a chance. That's right.
There's a chance. I'm saying, but there's a good chance.
Yeah.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready to count us out, and I'm not ready to count us out on the bet that we put at the beginning of the season. We took the over on 8.5 wins. And so I think we have to win out at this point in order to get there.
I mean, it's 6-8. They're gonna have to sweep.
But to win out to get to that 9 wins for us to cash in on that over on 8.5.
Yeah, it turns out that Vegas knows what they're doing after all, right, Razzle?
I mean,
house always wins, man. They just they suck you in and they just take all your money. I mean, that's
they did that. We just from a betting perspective, we had under on the two games yesterday night and then 2 games tonight. And of course the Washington football team game and the Eagles is the one that hit over on the 42.5 points. So we lost our parlay.
But realistically, how do they go into Dallas and win? I mean, you're going to likely get Taylor back. You're going to likely get some of these other players back. I mean, and they kind of sort of held their own against the Cowboys the first time through.
But Dallas isn't playing well right now. This is not the Dallas from like week 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah, but they don't have to play well to beat this team, and
defense,
we got to be honest.
Their defense is balling, I think.
Their defense is balling, but Dak hasn't looked right since he came back from the injury.
Yeah, I agree.
Zeke is, hit or miss these days. The receivers have been hurt. Some of them had COVID and were out for a bit. I'm not ready to count us out. I'm not saying we're going to go into Dallas and just win, but I think it's going to be a close game. Closer than the one that we had last week, where we had to come back and make it a competition. I'm not ready to count us out leading up to next week. Obviously, it's prime time. We know how the football team perform on primetime games, but the Cowboys aren't firing on all cylinders yet. They're actually getting a little bit more sloppy offensively leading into the playoffs. So that's something that caused me a little bit of concern.
Yeah. I don't see how they can go into Dallas and win. And I mean, if they get everybody back and they can keep it close and they get a lucky start the way they did tonight, they have a padded lead that they can protect a little bit, maybe. But
can we go back to our preseason predictions? Manny, we sat down, we did preseason predictions at the beginning of the year. And I had us, I had us right around that 8, 9, 10, a little optimistic 10 win. Your boy Joe over here had us going like 13-4.
Listen, man. Listen. I'm a fan. I'm a real fan through and through. That's how we pick games.
If you're a real fan through and through, you're going to say we're going to get healthy this week. We got all the COVID stuff out of the way. We got our players back, and we're going to go into Dallas, and we're going to compete, and we're going to make it. We're going to make a push to the playoffs. That's what I want to hear from you.
Well, I think Manny agrees with you. I think Manny can make it. I think Manny believes that the football team can make it a game.
I think they can make it a game. I think they can.
Would you pick them to win?
Will they win? I don't think they will. I don't think they will.
See?
And do I want them? And this is the young Washington football team fan in me that all I've seen is off seasons. Like, we look forward to the off season. So I think the selfish wanting to see a good off season side of me is like, hey, if you make the playoffs, that's going to affect your draft position. Do you really want that? Because you're not going to do anything in the playoffs. So what is the end goal here with the season? So that's the wanting me to have a higher draft position thing, I think, in me also, but I don't think they're going to win.
Yeah, see, I don't care as much about the draft position. I think it's more valuable for Ron to be able to say, we finished, his 2 years in DC so far, we've made the playoffs both times, or even if they miss out on this year, that we were competing until, despite of injury and everything else and COVID, we were competing, we were really close. I think that's really important because, yes, the draft is important, but I don't trust this team to draft in the first slot, second slot, 15th, 18th, 19th. Some teams are really good at it, and they're going to find that talent in the later rounds or even in late picks in the early rounds. And some teams aren't, right? And Chase, awesome player. Justin Herbert, next level player, right? And that's the easy one, right? But even go back a couple more seasons, Dwayne Haskins. And I think that's that's where I put my pen down and just kind of stop talking, right? They get infatuated with players and they can't seem to see past it, and it's the draft is important, don't get me wrong, but I think the team, to be able to retain the talent that you have, you need to be consistently winning. Nobody's going to come play for a team that is, a 4 and X number, 4 and whatever, or 5 and whatever, every year after year. And Ron's building something here. So I think he needs to stay on that path to be able to bring in free agents, but also to retain the talent that you have here. You're going to have players that you're going to have to re-sign. This defense is full of players that they're going to have to make decisions about within the next couple of seasons. They're going to have to do it.
Yeah. Do we think Ron's coming back next year? Not because he's going to get fired. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, he'll be back. Why wouldn't he be back?
He looks just so apathetic. He's just so I don't see him fighting with the refs. I don't see him arguing call. He just seems so just kind of going through the motions with this team. I don't I watched Matt Nagy last night, and you could say what you want about Matt Nagy, but he was fighting for his job last night, and he was out there arguing with the refs. I just don't see that fire in Ron, and I don't know if it's his health or if it's just the wear and tear of the season, going through. I have something inside of me that just says he's just going to walk away because he's gotten done coaching and wants to move on to a different phase of his life.
I don't think he's done, Joe. I don't get that sense. I think the body language early in the season was a little bit different. I think when we got a glimpse into the locker room and the David and Goliath bit, and we saw some of that passion, and even on local radio here when he does his radio hits, I think it's still there. I think it's different, post cancer. I think he's going to approach the game differently, and he has probably a larger
different life perspective,
on everything, right? Which is totally understandable and totally. I mean, it's awesome. No problems there. But I don't know why he would leave. He right now, he's got a lot of political capital, if you will. He's in the good graces of the fans right now, right? he's done something here that we haven't had in a while, which is make the team competitive in December. Like, we haven't had that. They didn't lose a game in November. Like, these are things that haven't generally happened around the football team basically during Dan's entire tenure of ownership. It's been flashes in the pan. It's been, Gibbs, 2.0 and or whatever. And there's a couple seasons where they look really good and then the fall off. And RG3 flash in the pan. What an amazing season 2012 was. And 2013 was laughably the opposite. I remember Operation Patience or whatever it was, and he came out and his leg blew up.
All in for week one, baby.
Yeah, all in for week one, exactly. That's when you knew that experiment was over, right? When he was about his docuseries and not about the team anymore, right? And it's unfortunate, but that's what happened. And then there was the several years of Bruce Allen not being able to pronounce people's names. Like, that's what we've been dealing with here, right? So I think Ron is, if nothing else, he's stabilized everything. And for better or for worse, he's tied to the team until they pick a name. I mean, it's his bad luck that he's here when the team is going through this.
What's the latest on that? The last rumor I heard is they got the name picked and they're releasing it soon. Are they just waiting until
I don't know. Manny's the insider. Manny, what's the name going to be?
I don't know what the name's going to be. I mean, I've said this for a while now. I think I said it before even it became popular. But Commanders seems to be the front runner. Unless they have a name that nobody's heard of yet, that's what I fully expected to be. I was on a call last fall, I believe it was, with several local media personalities and stuff, and we went through like a whole list of well over 1,000 of names, and that was one of the ones that kind of came into play that a lot of people clung on to and speculated as being like the name, because they were going to choose Warriors. Like, that was 100% going to be the name. But because of the feedback from the natives, it didn't happen. And so Commanders seems to be another, kind of almost that Warriors, a play on Warriors that can kind of give you what they wanted from that name. So I expect it to be that. And I expect it to be announced early in the new year.
What do you think of the name, Manny? Like, what do you think of that name, the Commanders? Because I've heard variants of it too. Like, I've heard command, like the command, as opposed to the Commanders,
like singular.
Yeah.
There was also the Commandos, but I think that one was canceled pretty quickly.
Commandos.
Well, I mean, if it's going to be the Command or the Commanders, I mean, do you have a preference? I mean, how do you feel about it? I mean, it's so different than obviously the former name, the Redskins. But I mean,
yeah.
Do you feel passionately or strongly about either of those?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I wasn't in the big Red Wolves party. I liked Wolves, but I wasn't really in the whole play of like, hey, let's name this team after an animal when it has nothing really to do with this area. To me, Commanders still has something that kind of ties you to, hey, this is the nation's capital. This is not America's team, but this is still the should be one of the pinnacle teams in the NFL.
Yeah, it's the freaking capital of the world. The DC is the capital of the world.
Yeah, and I feel like Commanders kind of attaches you to that, and so I don't hate it. I don't love it. For me, like, I'm always an aesthetics guy. Give me good branding, and I'm cool with it. You know what I mean?
Whatever name they're gonna pick, we're gonna like it. We're gonna hate it. There's gonna be so many mixed opinions that eventually we're just gonna get used to it.
Yeah.
But Razzle, the Commanders wasn't your top pick though. You were on something else.
I mean, I was hoping they just keep it like Skins, just say the Washington Skins, but I know they wanted to get far away from the previous name as possible. I like the Warthogs or something like that.
Warthogs is kind of cool too.
The Warthogs would have been cool. Kind of keep a little bit of tradition.
I was big on the Valor. I mean, but I don't think Teddy Leonsis is going to give up that name. But the Washington Valor has a strong logo, strong name, strong everything, right? But I don't see Dan approaching Teddy to be like, hey, let me buy the.
He's not gonna pay for anything. Dan ain't gonna pay anybody.
Exactly. And everything Wolves is owned by the Timberwolves. Apparently, everything Warriors is owned by the Golden State Warriors. So I mean, it's not easy to go find something that no one's ever thought of before.
Yeah, I think Commanders is an easy segue from Washington football team. I mean,
Yeah.
I when they put that logo in the middle of the field last month or whenever it was, and just looking at it, I was like, man, it's such an easy transition. All you got to do is replace football team at the bottom of that circle with Commanders, and there's like kind of your logo. They may go with a different logo, but I mean, it's such an easy transition because either way, I think they're going to go with the W as being that main front, thing.
I'm curious though, because like Commanders begs, or it really like you would think it would be like a camo color scheme, right? Not burgundy and gold, and I think that's where the fan base may really lose its mind.
Yeah,
No,
it
they're
would be
not
cool.
going to change the colors.
Yeah, I don't think they changed the colors, but it would be cool to have an all uniform that's like
Yeah,
that
why
camo
not?
color.
Why not?
Yeah.
For one glorious season, we had those black uniforms, which were awesome. I still got I got a Sean Taylor black jersey and a Santana Moss, and this is one of my favorite ones. They wore them once, I think, and it was at an event. It wasn't even for a game, but
Is Santana still doing local radio?
he's on two different. He's on two different podcasts, but yeah. I mean, look, this is a long Tuesday night. The Washington football team unfortunately dropped this game in Philadelphia. We officially begin Dallas week. Any final thoughts, Manny or Razzle? I mean, it wasn't pretty. They have a ton of work cut out for them as they head to Dallas, and I think they're heading down to Dallas and like they're coming back tonight, and then they're flying out immediately tomorrow afternoon to Dallas. I think Ron wants them there, but we'll see what happens, boys. I mean, Manny, thank you for making time. Thank you for coming on the show. It's awesome to see you and catch up with you. Razzle, thank you as always again. We got about a minute here. Any final thoughts, boys?
Yeah, I would say like I continue to see how this team just fights for Ron Rivera, man, and for each other. And I think that's a positive sign moving forward. Regardless if they make the playoffs or not. Like I think you can hold on to that and know like Ron Rivera hasn't lost the locker room like he could have early in the season, but he hasn't. And they've been fighting for him, and the whole David and Goliath thing. Like you saw how the team just rallied around that.
Hopefully it continues, Manny. Hopefully it continues. I mean, we'll see what happens. It's been a long night, but thank you for making time. Razzle, thank you for making time as well. My name is Joe. This is Defeating the Curse, available on all platforms. Until next time, we are